OurPlanRocks.com sponsoring the show, along with the RealEstateExperts.com. I call it the other mortgage in your life, health insurance. If you are a self-employed individual or otherwise have had to resort to the disaster called the Obamacare exchanges, and your insurance is $1,500, $2,000 a month with a $10,000 to $20,000 deductible, and it's a mortgage, literally, then try OurPlanRocks.com. That's what McKenzie and me have, OurPlanRocks.com. It's about half the price of what I just described, and in almost every case has the exact same or better benefits because it doesn't have to comply with all of the stupid rules of Obamacare. OurPlanRocks.com. Tell them you heard about it on the RealEstateExperts.com real estate show about housing. We were talking last segment, I feel the need to continue this, about how everything's become so difficult and that there's been so much fraud and deception and corruption, mainly by outside players taking advantage of the technology, digital economy, internet that we created, that when you go to do banking anymore, you have to have a computer and a cell phone. If you try to go to the branch, they don't have enough people. There's a line out the door. It's one more step that is much more difficult than it used to be because we've created all of this technology to do all these things. And when it's not working perfectly, there's actually more work to do now with the technology helping us than there was back when we had no technology. That's really why everyone's so overwhelmed, regardless of where you are in your life, retired or just starting out in your 20s. So when you look at things, I'll give you an example. We have a loan going on with a client right now, Bank of America, which we begged them not to use. And I got an email yesterday that says, we don't accept digital signatures. Please sign it with wet ink, right? And I said, no. If you can't handle the loan, I'll help him get it somewhere else. Now, that's a fairly aggressive response, but I've had so much negative experience with Bank of America. Wish it wasn't, but it is. And I've dealt with this before. And it's the example. There's so many layers. It's not just what we're required to do. Now, everybody requires twice what we're required to do just to cover their ass. Okay? So the point of that story is I see this at layers at every walk of our personal and business lives. I think everybody listening to this deals with some version of this. Some underwriter who doesn't have to actually generally interface with people says, this is a digital signature by the agent. And I said simply, why do I need, as a real estate agent in the state of Georgia, there's no law that requires it. There's no ethics that require it. There's no morals that require it. Why do I need to sign as the agent on a contract between a buyer and a seller? I'm not a party to that contract. I have a contract with the seller to sell the house.
It's different in different states. Like in South Carolina, it's not required, but in Georgia it is.
No, it's not.
I mean,
it's required.
It's not required in South Carolina at all.
But it's not required in Georgia either.
But it is on the Georgia. If you're a realtor, it is. So yeah.
Well, but
I don't know why. As a witness, I don't know.
Do you know why it is? It's because the Board of Realtors, in order to make their job easier, created these forms. And they decided that if we put all of the agents on the forms, then when there is a dispute over commission, if everybody did that, we don't have to deal with the dispute anymore. So we're going to make everybody do layers of extra paperwork ad nauseum, 50 to 100,000 times a year, so that the dozen times a year that there is a real ambiguity, that will be solved. So everybody in the world does all this extra work, re-signing in forms, to prevent some bureaucrat in an office that works for the Realtors Association from having to figure out who did what. It's because I am not, if I'm the agent, I have nothing to do with other than negotiation, marketing, and general, stylistically and generally working the deal. I am not a party to the contract. So it would be like saying, McKenzie, because we're married, you have to sign on the car I'm buying. Right? If I need you for the credit, then yes, I would have to have you sign. But it's like saying, I need 3 or 4 other people to sign that. I just bought a brand new car. The car salesman didn't sign the documents I signed with BMW Financial. He didn't. So why would a real estate agent need to put their signature on a contract between a third-party buyer and third-party seller? They don't. Because the contract, the legal agreement between a home seller and a real estate agent is the listing agreement. The legal agreement between a home buyer and a real estate agent representing that buyer is the buyer's agency agreement. That's the contract. We aren't part of the contract between that buyer and that seller. It isn't the case. But you have a bunch of dip craps. I would love to say the actual word. that sit in bureaucratic positions and come up with things because they don't understand what the hell they're doing. And so every walk of life, from banking to mortgage to finance, to insurance, auto finance, I guess, there's all kinds of this stuff. Now, I just used the auto finance example. Don't take that as a pass to the auto finance industry. It used to be you sign 2 forms, walk out, pay for a car, and you're done. Now it's a mortgage you're closing. So there's all these documents because there's all these people that have scammed vehicle financing companies, right? And so the rest of us are now dealing with the fact that everything is digital, everything is capable of being hacked, everyone's money is at risk of being stolen, and the laws kind of push that on the financial institutions, even if their clients are irresponsible, to be responsible to make them whole or good. And that's if the client has the wherewithal to fight the effort to get the money back. A lot of people just give up. So everybody has become compliant. Everybody has become, I'll just do it. None of us press back. So when someone like me does for the right reasons, I'm the problem, okay? No, the problem isn't the people who are just compliant, unlike me. The problem isn't the people who are non-compliant because this isn't even a rule. You just made it up, pull it out of your rear end.
It's a policy.
It's a policy, right? It's an arbitrary unilateral rule that has no legal binding effect whatsoever and is not enforceable in court in any way, right? There's all these rules we got to follow. That's not me that's the problem. It's not that's the problem. It's the fact that we are allowing the fraudsters, the scam artists, the criminals,
the little
percentages who scam one person, scams 100 people, which means a few thousand affect millions, okay? So we're allowing a few thousand criminals, scam artists, and what have you to create a nightmarish world of division for the rest of us. And we're doing nothing about it. The politicians are taking bribes, both sides of the aisle. I don't like any of them anymore. I don't even know what my politics are. I just know it's not them, right? It may be Trump. I like Trump because he'll just hand them their rear end, right? I don't know politically if I like Trump. I just like the fact he's up there kind of destroying the infrastructure that has been the criminals of Washington, which is most all of them. The same thing at our state house. They're all taking bribes. They're all taking money. They're all getting money from lobbyists. They're all doing what people pay them to do through a legal process of donations and what have you. And the rest of us are sitting here going, what can we do? I had a chat with a friend of ours that manages property in another state for us that we own this week. And she says, what's going on with this deal you had with this particular developer who's screwing over the neighborhood? And I said, I'm at 50-50 as to whether I'm going to sue him or not. I can type my own lawsuit, file it, and be done with it. I don't need a lawyer for that. Small claims case. I said, but I just don't know if I want to mess with it. And I said, I did file a complaint with him at the state in South Carolina is where this is. And I filed a complaint with him because he is a licensed agent who really did something technically illegal. It was almost fraud. And I said, I am going to do that part because if I have to show up for a hearing, I want to make sure he gets reprimanded and has to face the accountability of what he did to me. Not only cost me money, but what he's done to me, he's done to others. And I've heard about it and no one knows how to bring him to account. And she says, I'm thinking about once my youngest child gets a little older, I might get a law degree so I can do something to make a difference. And I didn't say anything back because I never want to shatter anybody's hopes or dreams. But you ain't got a shot in hell of that being any good, right? That's what I wanted to say because I believe that we have reached a point of last percentage point of no return. In that it is so corrupt and so criminal and there's so much in-kind donation to politicians and underhandedness and all of that, that in order to take it back, we almost have to unseat the good and the bad and completely wipe the slate. And I don't think the American people have the desire or the acumen or the resolve to do that because we're so busy trying to keep our own lives and our own financial lives from the wheels spinning off.
Hey, I'm just trying to get my kids home from school. I mean, maybe get out to a couple appointments so I can.
Well, and when they're spending all their time, as we discussed last segment, Atlanta Public Schools giving all the illegals a place to go while all the rest of the legal people are struggling to get them to even get the bus to show up. It is a bit of a challenge to get your kids to and from school. When incompetent bureaucrats show their true colors, what do you do? And I'm not here to complain. I mean, what does all this mean to the listener? We got a couple of minutes left.
Makes me so tired,
what's the point of it? I think you have to do what I did this week. It's hard for me in the businesses I'm in to function without a PayPal account. If you send me a PayPal bill, I'll no longer pay it. I'm not going to send you a paper check because I don't have time for it. You're going to send me a bill, and you're going to have a payment system that allows me to pay you digitally in some number of different formats, but not PayPal, because PayPal is crooks. And every time there's a problem, I had to spend 96 minutes on the telephone with them over a $1,000 error that they created on Monday. It's the way I started my week. I'm not going to do it anymore. Sorry. If you don't like it, if I'm difficult, if I'm being a curmudgeon, I'm getting to the point where if you don't make it easy, I don't care. And I think to some extent, because of where we are, I can say this, I don't care about my credit. I do. I want to keep good credit, but I don't. If something hits my credit 30 days late because I have to jump through 100 hoops and waste 3 hours of my time I could spend with my family or doing something fun or working on my health, instead I'm stressed out trying to jump through hoops to figure out how to deal with it. I don't care anymore. Because apparently all you have to do when something's on your credit that you don't agree with or that you think was fraudulently put there is just go to the police department, waste their time filing a police report, send a copy of that into Equifax, and apparently the law says they got to remove it. That's what I hear. So you don't even have to pay your bills anymore. You just have to learn how to manipulate the system. I'm not endorsing any of this illegality or fraud-sounding behavior. I'm just saying, why does everything have to be that complex? We have got to start taking control in areas that we can take control as people. We have got to learn that sometimes we want something that we really, really want and we really, really want to do, but it's becoming difficult and we got to bail out of it and not push it to fruition and to finality and move to something where there's less resistance. I think that's the message. That's the end game. That's the exclamation point about all of this is to start cutting out the companies in our lives that create these pressures and stresses. And if we can't cut them out completely, then make the decision then based on who's cheapest. Find the best, but if we can't find one that's good, like Comcast, that's all you got, then just cut it down to the cheapest possible. That's the moral of the story. Cut out the crap in your lives and want and desire less. And then I think life becomes more peaceful. I'll leave it there. TheRealEstateExperts.com online. In the meantime, we'll see you next weekend.
Bye-bye.